Hi everyone, thanks so much for those of you who have been so prompt in turning up on time. We are seeing the numbers still increasing by the second, so might just give it another minute or two to allow as many people as possible to join before we get underway. Cool, maybe just one more minute everyone and then we'll get underway. Yeah, okay, I think we're going to go ahead and dive into it. So hello and welcome everyone to today's session on AU Seller Success on Amazon US, presented by Amazon Australia and Payoneer. Given the current levels of demand we're seeing from Australian and New Zealand businesses wanting to expand into the US, Payoneer and Amazon Australia saw an opportunity to collaborate, bringing together our unique perspectives as to what makes a great seller on Amazon US and then how to grow your business on Amazon US. This has been reinforced by the incredible registration numbers we've seen come through, which just shows how timely this topic is for so many Aussie and New Zealand businesses. And we know at current, there's about 50% of you who are currently selling on Amazon already, most likely Amazon Australia, and 50% of you who are new to Amazon full stop. So we've curated this session so it'll be highly relevant for both parties. And of course, we'd love to hear your feedback at the end as well. But for now, just a quick introduction to the voices you'll be hearing throughout today's session. So over on the left, that's me. My name is Arabella Baker, and I am an International Expansion Manager within Amazon Australia's global selling team. What does an International Expansion Manager do? I partner with Australian and New Zealand businesses to help expand them into Amazon's global stores, with a primary focus on the US at current. So that looks like anything from helping them understand what the local requirements are within each marketplace, how to list their products in each marketplace, how to figure out the logistics behind international shipping, fulfillment options within the country, and then of course how to promote their product on the site. So that's a bit about me. Bonnie, perhaps I'll pass to you now.
Fantastic, thanks Arabella. And my name is Bonnie Brady. I am the Partnerships Manager for Payoneer ANZ. Payoneer is one of the world's largest B2B cross-border payments platform. We're a really large global organisation and have a fantastic long-standing partnership with Amazon globally. We are one of their preferred disbursement solutions, which basically means that you can receive your Amazon payments directly into your Payoneer account. I'm going to go into the benefits of this in more depth throughout the presentation, but also in addition to this, Arabella and I are going to cover off the global e-commerce landscape and Amazon and Payoneer's role within this. So Arabella, do you want to just skip to the next slide so the attendees can see the agenda? Fantastic. We're also going to cover off the foundations of selling on Amazon and some of the key recommendations that ultimately are going to help you be a successful seller. So before we talk through how to drive success on Amazon and why you should look to ultimately optimize your global payments, I'm just going to give you a really quick rundown of the current e-commerce landscape and that cross-border sales opportunity. Then Arabella's going to talk us through how one of the world's largest stores, Amazon.com, provides you a platform for customer acquisition. So do you want to jump onto the next slide, Arabella? Fantastic. So COVID-19, it has affected a wide variety of different industries, from travel through to e-commerce. We've all heard the fantastic growth acceleration stats and that opportunity which sellers are now presented on and can capitalise on. So I'm not going to go into the true ins and the outs and lots of depth because I do think that this drum has been beat pretty hard. But I do think there is some fantastic stats that I just want to quickly call out on the slide. Before I do that, I just want to preface though that this is research that Payoneer has conducted independently from Amazon, and these statistics on the slide aren't Amazon's own data points. So if we just look to the left of the slide, that number 4.9 trillion is the expected global e-commerce sales figure for 2021. That's a pretty significant number. But what's even more significant is that expected growth over the next 3 years is 30%. That's 10% growth year on year. So although we're seeing countries return to some form of normality again, whatever normal means these days, and we're seeing bricks and mortar stores open back up, the way that the consumers have adapted and adopted to buying online, I can only imagine it's just going to continue to grow as the e-commerce industry flourishes and just goes from strength to strength. And it's no secret that Amazon has led the way when it comes to e-commerce, and we can't argue that. It has this fantastic ability, in my opinion, to innovate and reinvent itself, which has made it the real powerhouse which dominates the market today. It's no secret that customers in the USA and also globally, they love it. Why, in my opinion? It facilitates this fantastic comparison shopping across multiple different retailers. It offers a really fantastic quick delivery and easy return solution, and has this awesome detailed product review section. So if we look at the US market specifically, just skip to the next slide, Arabella. This slide, fantastic. This slide highlights the growth that the US market has seen in e-commerce over the past decade. 1 in 10 people never purchased online prior to the global pandemic. Yet we know that the global pandemic saw people in lockdown, and Amazon has this fantastic quick and easy fulfillment service, which enabled them to get their household items and luxury goods without even needing to leave the house. In fact, I read a fantastic stat recently that said 88% of the adult population in the US in 2020 purchased online. So it's fair to say that COVID accelerated the e-commerce purchases in the United States.
Perfect. Thanks so much for showing those stats, Bonnie. So as we just saw, the rate of traditional in-store shoppers switching to online purchases has accelerated as a result of the COVID pandemic. As a result, it is becoming an imperative for businesses such as yourselves to adopt a multi-channel sales strategy. By adopting a multi-channel sales strategy, you can reach more customers more frequently. Many of you will be very familiar with how the Amazon online store works, but I thought it'd just be interesting to dive into the origins before we get stuck into the foundations of success. So this weird looking diagram on the right-hand side, that's known as the Amazon flywheel. So this was drawn out on a napkin by Jeff Bezos and essentially forms the business model that we know of Amazon today. Just to walk you through it, so the flywheel starts with sellers, which is yourself, who offer selection onto our online store. With more selection, creates a better customer experience, and with a better customer experience, drives more traffic to the site. And this continues on a virtuous cycle, which eventually leads to a lower cost structure, which in turn allows us to lower prices for our customers. So it's a simple concept, plus all the complexities that come with building a multinational corporation that have led to Amazon being the world's largest online store. I know that's not surprising for many of you. Just a quick look at Amazon's current global presence with a little bit of a skew towards the US. So I'll start from the left-hand side and then work around these clockwise. So at current, Amazon has just a tick over 300 million customers. 150 million of those customers are Prime members, with approximately 98 million of them residing in the US alone. 450,000 was the number of American small medium businesses on Amazon.com who were engaged in FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, and as a result grew their sales by 34%. That was in 2020. Down one more, $160,000 was the average sales in USD from American SMBs on Amazon.com, again, also in 2020. Moving down to the bottom, since the COVID pandemic hit, the rate of third-party sales has hit record numbers. Approximately 50% of all units sold in 2020 were from third-party sellers. And this growth rate is what we're seeing outpace traditional Amazon retail sales. And I think we expect that to overtake traditional retail sales in the next 2 years, which is amazing. And then, of course, last but not least, Amazon has over 16 stores worldwide that you can tap into. But for the purpose of today's session, of course, we are primarily focused on briefly amazon.com.au and amazon.com, so Australia and the United States. So briefly on amazon.com.au. So Australia launched for Amazon in December of 2017. And for Amazon, Australia is our largest international expansion, both in terms of selection and sales. We would call amazon.com.au an emerging marketplace, meaning we're still on a growth trajectory and there are still a lot of selection gaps where Australian customers are looking, but there isn't enough supply to meet demand. Or perhaps you could offer a better experience in terms of price or delivery. If you were yet to start selling on Amazon full stop and you would like to start with the Australian marketplace, you can create your account by going to sell.amazon.com.au. Then on the flip side, Amazon.com, Amazon's largest marketplace globally, making this our established marketplace. The benefits of being part of an established marketplace are you get to tap into an extremely loyal customer base, and the platform itself is a bit more sophisticated and heavily resourced. So you've got a lot of tools that you have access to. I read the stat the other day that 55% of all online product searches in the US begin on Amazon.com. That just blew my mind. If you would like to start selling on Amazon.com and bypass Australia first, then you can create your account at sell.amazon.com. All right, cool. So when we're thinking about expanding into international markets, such as the US, there are a few key things we want to consider. First and foremost, local market requirements. We want to ensure you're complying with all customs and border security requirements, as well as any applicable laws, regulations, and Amazon policies. For example, if I was selling in the grocery category and I have a food item, I would need to check if I might need something like FDA clearance, otherwise known as Food and Drug Administration. Similarly, children's products or any products that are marketed to children, you might want to check if you need a children's product certificate, otherwise known as a CPC. Next to that, we want to check to make sure that our product doesn't fall into the restricted categories for sale on Amazon.com. And if it does, we'll need to secure approval from the seller support team to sell in that category. Securing approval is pretty easy. In many instances, if you are required by a US regulatory body to have an FDA approval, a children's product certificate, whatever it might be, it's likely the seller support team will ask for that documentation in order to grant your approval. If that isn't required, it might be as simple as please send through some photos of your product with your manufacturer or brand contact information on it, and then we'll grant your approval to sell. Last but not least, really good to understand your tax obligations and customs entry requirements. So with tax, that will differ depending on your company structure. Things like GST and VAT are borne by customers, so you don't need to worry about that as much. I'll dig into customs a little bit further down the presentation as well. Our next big consideration is payments, understanding how you're going to receive the proceeds of your international sales. There are a multitude of ways to get paid by Amazon. Many Australian and New Zealand businesses will continue to use their existing Australian or New Zealand bank account. But what we're seeing grow in popularity as selling partners seek to optimize costs where possible is the adoption of a third-party payment platform. So Bonnie, this is your area of expertise. So if you could tell us a bit more about how third-party payment platforms are supporting Amazon sellers and specifically what benefits they're deriving from the Payoneer platform.
Thanks, Arabella. So prior to Payoneer, I worked at a company called TradeMe, a marketplace based in New Zealand. My role there was to work with merchants to launch a cross-border marketplace strategy into NZ. Off the back of my years of experience helping businesses grow, I have a good understanding of the fundamentals of cross-border trade, and it's something that I've personally become really passionate about. But what really excited me with making the move across the ditch to join the team at Payoneer was the fact that helping businesses grow globally was really entrenched in the company's ethos and mission here at Payoneer. So who is Payoneer and what do we do? We have been around since 2005. We've got 24 offices worldwide, with our head office being based in New York. The company itself, we processed $44 billion in payments last year, and we service over 5 million businesses globally, with a really large portion of that being e-commerce merchants like yourself. We're trusted by enterprise businesses all the way through to your SMEs and have a dedicated team down under who support Australian and New Zealand businesses streamline their global payments. Because we've been around since 2005, we understand e-commerce because we've grown up with it. Amazon Prime actually was founded in 2005 as well in the US. So we've grown up within the same timeline as the world's largest store has. As they grow, so do we, and we're constantly evolving to provide features and functionality that global sellers need to be successful. Working with Amazon Business is our ultimate core bread and butter. Arabella, do you want to just skip to the next slide? In terms of what we provide Amazon sellers, ultimately what we do is we provide them the ability to get paid like a local, as if they were living in market and it opens up a bank account. Payoneer has partnered with some of the world's largest, most trusted banks, like Barclays, Bank of America, Citibank, which enables us to provide local ANZ businesses bank accounts. So although our solution is significantly cheaper and faster than your typical banking model, we still leverage the bank's infrastructure and they're heavily part of our network. So ultimately with Payoneer, there's no need to fly into country to open up a foreign currency bank account, which we know would be very difficult to do in a post-COVID world that we're seeing at the moment. We provide sellers bank accounts in majority of the markets that Amazon are established in. So as they grow into different markets, so do we. So we ultimately can service their sellers. We also keep a special eye on the emerging markets and look to service sellers wanting to sell into them. So although we can receive in the 11 currencies and we're providing new bank accounts and the currencies that I've got listed up on this slide, you've also got the ability to pay out in over 150 different currencies. It's worth just thinking around your Payoneer account like a standard bank account. You can receive your Amazon payments into a bank account, which is in like-for-like currency, or other B2B payments like your wholesaler payments. Once the funds have landed in your Payoneer account, there's a few different options that you've got. You could use them for your supplier payments. It's worth noting that if you aren't selling on Amazon.com and you're selling specifically on Amazon AU currently, but you've got suppliers cross-border, payments can be made directly from your Payoneer account for these supplier payments too. What we've got this fantastic feature called direct funding, where you can load AUD into your Payoneer account, and then we'll do that FX conversion piece for you before you pay out to the likes of your suppliers or freelancers, contractors, etc. If you are keen to get the direct funding feature enabled on your Payoneer account, at the end of this slide deck, I will just be providing you a direct email to the local team that you can just pop us a note and we can discuss having this feature enabled on your account. It's also worth mentioning just on that supplier payment piece that if your supplier or your freelancer or your contractor has a Payoneer account, these payments are free and instantaneous as it's all part of our network. We have got a really large presence in Southeast Asia and also China, where we typically see the likes of your freelancers and suppliers being based. So it's really highly likely that the businesses that you're working with at this moment are already part of the Payoneer network. So that could be an instant saving for you. Another thing as well that's worth noting is that we can provide you a MasterCard. So this connects up to your GBP or your Euro and your USD balance. So if you've got payments that you need to make to Helium 10 or Jungle Scout, you can make these direct from your Payoneer card. And the other thing as well, which is really unique to Payoneer, is that we've got a integration for paying your VAT. So if you've got VAT obligations in the UK or Europe, it's super easy to make these payments direct from your Payoneer account. And of course, you've got the ability to withdraw your funds to your local AUD bank account. Making the payments direct from your Payoneer account, though, does mean that you aren't doing unnecessary double conversion. So what I mean by that is receive USD from Amazon and then withdraw to your local AUD or NZ bank account, and then make supplier payments to a USD invoice from your local bank account. Making the payments from your USD bank account with Payoneer completely minimises that FX exposure and the fees associated with currency conversion. So in simple terms, Payoneer helps Amazon sellers reduce costs, get paid like you were a local within market, simplify your payments, achieve faster payments, and grow globally by leveraging our extensive ecosystem, which I'll elaborate a little bit further on in the presentation. So I'm going to go into more depth on the product design specifically for Amazon sellers and how we help you retain a greater portion of your global sales. But before I go into that, Arabella is just going to go through the step-by-step guide on the foundations of becoming a successful Amazon seller. So I'll hand that back over to you, Arabella.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Bonnie. Before we dive into the foundations, just 2 slides of housekeeping. So first things first, if you currently have 2 separate Amazon accounts, so you might have one for amazon.com.au and one for amazon.com, we would want to link those together. I don't want you to be paying 2 separate monthly fees. That's not fun for anyone. By linking your accounts, you'll pay only 1 fee and you'll have 1 single sign-on. So you'll be able to toggle between the different regions you have active listings in within that one Seller Central account. If this is you, you can link your accounts by navigating your way to inventory in your Seller Central account and then down to Sell Global. Within that, you can choose to either link your American account to your Australian or your Australian account to your American. There's also the opportunity to create a new selling account in a new marketplace through this function as well. Cool. Next thing up, creating new store listings. So as I mentioned, 50% of you will be super familiar with how the listing process works on Amazon. But what many selling partners don't realize is when you expand into a new marketplace, you actually need to create your listings in the Seller Central account aligned to that marketplace. So I just want to do a refresher on what the process looks like. So first consideration is, do I want to add a product one by one? We recommend this if you have 5 or less products, and in which case we would use something called the Add a Product tool. Otherwise, if you wanting to list greater than 5 products, then I would recommend adding products via upload. So that's using one of our Excel inventory file templates to upload all the information of your catalog to Amazon Seller Central. The next consideration is, am I creating a new product listing? So is my product new to Amazon, full stop? It's not being sold by any other selling partner. Or if my product is currently being sold by another selling partner, then I want to match to an existing listing. Matching to an existing listing just takes any duplication out of the Amazon catalog and saves you a lot of time by taking someone else's hard work of the listing and putting that into your Seller Central account. Again, for those of you who would be new to the listing process, the way we do it is we navigate to the inventory tab in our Seller Central account, and then we'll see both options to either add a product if I'm selling 5 or less, or add products by upload if I'm selling 5 or more. All right, that is our housekeeping out of the way. Let's start digging into our foundations. So foundation 1 is building a quality detail page. I know for many of you, this will be a been there, done that, but I can't stress enough how much having a quality detail page, especially on a marketplace like Amazon.com, influences your discoverability. I'll work around the 5 key elements of a quality detail page here, starting with title up the top there. So each category will have different title requirements, but our standard formula is your brand plus your product name, plus the material or key ingredient, plus color, size, and quantity. Very descriptive. Moving anti-clockwise to the left, we've got our images. This is often the first exposure a customer will have to your product. So please make sure your images are against a white background and are 1,000 pixels in either height or width to enable the Amazon Zoom functionality. It would really surprise you how many times my selling partners and I have just made the decision to change a main image and the resulting sales that come from a simple change like that. So this is big. The next thing is our bullet points. So this is your chance to describe the key features of your product, be that key ingredients, compatibility, materials used, skill level, whatever it might be. Moving into our product description and number 4 there, this is your opportunity to dive into more of a narrative description as to the feel and use of your product, so a customer can really imagine themselves using your product. And then lastly, but definitely not least, is your price and delivery times. So research suggests that price and delivery, or price and convenience, are the 2 major factors towards a purchase decision. So my recommendation here is research other competing offers to your own, make sure your price is competitive to theirs, and if not, make sure your delivery experience is competitive there as well. So 5 key elements of a product detail page. Bonnie, back to you.
Thanks, Arabella. So I appreciate that foreign exchange can be confusing, but hopefully with the slide, I can simplify it down for you. First thing to remember is the process of making a currency transfer involves selling one currency to buy another, for example, pounds to euros. The mid-market rate, which is sometimes called the interbank rate or the middle rate, is the midpoint between the buy and the sell prices of any 2 currencies at any time. The buy and the sell rates are based on the constantly changing demand and supply of a currency. The mid-market rate is also constantly changing too off the back of this. The mid-market rate can be obtained from the likes of your Googles or your X's, and it's usually the most genuine rate that you'll get on exchange. But as always, there are loopholes. Banks and trade brokers, they tend to use the mid-market rate. However, this is not always the rate that they're going to offer you. This is because they regularly add in a spread to the mid-market that effectively increases it to include the often exorbitant charges for facilitating the exchange, but without showing you the rate. Telltale signs are claims of zero commission or no fees. This is something that Payoneer doesn't do, as we believe that being super transparent with our customers is really important. We do use the standard mid-market rate of the day, and like I said, you can obtain this from your Googles or your XCs, so it's a simple way for you to cross-check the mid-market rate that we're using, and we clearly showcase to you at the time that you make the exchange the fee that you're going to be charged. Our fee is flat, and it doesn't fluctuate with the demand of certain currencies. So this slide showcases a comparison saving for 10K USD converted at the mid-market rate to AUD, lesser our FX fees of either Payoneer or your typical traditional banks. For the Payoneer model, I have used an example rate of 1.2%. However, our fee can vary depending on the sales volume. So this is just a sample example. Banks typically charge an FX fee which ranges from anything from 3% all the way through to 6%, plus a flat fee which can range from $10 through to $40. Banks typically call this a wire transfer fee because what they use is the wire network, which is notably significantly slower. So using this example, let's say you were to receive 10K every Amazon payment cycle. Amazon, we know, pay out fortnightly, so that's $622 savings per month. So to put that in perspective, that's nearly 7.5K worth of savings annually, which is pretty significant in my opinion. And if you stop and think about what that extra capital could be used for, let's say investing in your business's growth strategy, you could perhaps use it for some of the additional features and functionality that I'm sure Arabella is probably going to cover off as we go through the presentation. So on that note, before I hand it back off to Arabella, let me just quickly run through some of the key features and functionalities that Payoneer has got specifically for Amazon sellers like yourself. Let's start off at the left-hand side. One of our key features is a store manager product. So if you're selling on multiple Amazon markets, let's say Amazon.com through to Amazon AU, you've got the ability to have a really fantastic overview of all of your store payments from one single location. So instead of you jumping on and logging on to each marketplace to track your total earnings, our store manager product enables you to see payments from multiple Amazon stores across many markets, which ultimately makes reconciling a whole lot easier. Amazon advertising and transparency integration, you can pay the invoices directly from your Payoneer accounts. This service simplifies running your Amazon store, enabling you to pay these invoices quickly and get back into growing your business. Bank statements, we can issue you a certified bank statement to prevent Amazon having any hiccups when you do need to change over in Seller Central, let's say a typical bank account through to a Payoneer account. So if you just jump to the next slide, Arabella, this gives the attendees an opportunity to have a quick look at what our statements look like.
Great. I actually haven't seen this before as well, so this is great for me to know when I'm working with Australian and New Zealand businesses. Thanks, Bonnie. All right, fantastic. So foundation number 3 of successful selling partners on Amazon.com is enrollment in Brand Registry. Caveat, this is exclusively for brand owners. A brand owner on Amazon is defined as anyone who has a registered trademark with an official government body. For us in Australia, that government body is IP Australia. In the US, that's the United States Trademark and Patent Office. The fantastic thing with Brand Registry is we can use our IP Australia registered trademark to gain access to Brand Registry on Amazon.com. Brand Registry is a free competitive advantage on Amazon.com, so strongly recommend this if you are a brand owner. Just to go through the main benefits of Brand Registry. So first and foremost, we have proactive brand protection. So Amazon's brand protection team will proactively scan the Amazon catalog and pick up any potential infringements. By picking that up, they'll look to suppress selling partner accounts that are suspected of infringement, so they can no longer sell your products until a time when it's approved to do so, or totally ruled out. To add to that, you can of course flag with the Amazon Brand Registry team if you suspect selling partner infringement, and they'll also act to suspend that account until further investigation. Next big benefit is access to A+ content. This is essentially additional videos, images, and text that you can add to your product detail page. Our recent stats suggest that by adding A+ content, you can have a potential sales uplift of 5.6%. So that's pretty critical. Third, you have access to your own Amazon.com web address. You can see the example I've given on the right is an example of a brand that has built out their own web address, otherwise known as Amazon Stores. And this allows your US customers to, I guess, further dig into the look and feel of your brand, get to know more about your products on offer, and ideally, more information leads to higher conversions. If you are still waiting on your trademark to come through, I know it can take an extensive amount of time, especially in Australia. You can have early access to Brand Registry through a program called Amazon's IP Accelerator Program, something which is only available on Amazon.com. And it's essentially a network of law firms that partner with Amazon and that Amazon trusts have done their due diligence to prove that, yep, this selling partner is likely to be approved for a trademark. You should go ahead and grant them early access to Brand Registry. So that's something to consider as well if you're on that path now. Okay, foundation number 4, sourcing a reliable and timely shipping partner. I know COVID threw a big spanner in the works when it comes to timely shipping, but when we start to move forward into a world where things start to look back to some semblance of normal, having that trusted shipping partner will be key. So 2 options for you to consider here. The first one is engaging a third-party shipping partner, such as a FedEx, a StarTrax, whatever it might be. Most manufacturers will have existing partnerships with shipping providers, so that can always be easy for you to adopt as well. The second option you should consider is Amazon Global Logistics. So caveat, this is only available if A, you manufacture your products in China, and B, you use fulfillment by Amazon. So essentially, Amazon Global Logistics offers highly discounted rates for the channel between Chinese manufacturer and US-based fulfillment by Amazon warehouses. So across both options, you should be provided with a customs broker who will let you know what documentation is required from you to ensure seamless transit of your products into the US. But always good to be prepared before they come asking for those documents. So I recommend looking into importer of record documentation, and if you need an employee identification number, otherwise known as an EIN. Cool. All right, this is our last foundation. So engaging a third-party expert. In many instances, Amazon won't have all the information or the infrastructure you need to progress along your international selling journey. For this reason, we've built out a central repository of vetted third-party service providers you can engage for a fee. When we say vetted, we scope them out to understand how many Amazon selling partners they're working with, and that list has to be comprehensive, and also to make sure they have a proven track record of success and positive feedback. So in my day-to-day interactions with Australian and New Zealand businesses wanting to sell in the US, I'm usually directing them to the service provider network on 3 occasions. The first one, as I just mentioned before, is to find an international shipping partner. So we list a whole suite of international shipping partners, many of which are Australian-based, which you can access through the service provider network. The next big use case is finding a storage provider in the US. So some of you may be aware that Amazon places capacity limits for new sellers in our fulfillment centers, just given current levels of demand. At current, it's 1,000 units per new seller in the United States. This is prone to fluctuations, so I encourage you to refer to your Seller Central account to understand current figures. But for the current situation, some Australian and New Zealand businesses find that sending 1,000 units to the US is not enough to derive proper economies of scale from shipping. For that reason, we recommend engaging a third-party storage solution where you can send, excess units. Let's say 1,000 units go to Fulfillment by Amazon, 1,000 units go to a third-party storage provider, and when your FBA inventory depletes, you can easily forward your inventory from the third-party storage provider to FBA without the lag and expense of doing another international shipment. Last but not least, the other use case is, of course, talking about taxes. This is something I can only give really surface level attention to, but I recommend engaging an accountant to understand the ins and outs of what you might be required to pay, both within Australia and perhaps to the US tax authority. Accountants often offer free 30-minute consultations, which can be super informative alone, so definitely worth having a chat. So in essence, the service provider network is super self-service. You can access it through your Seller Central account under the Apps and Service tab. Otherwise, you can easily search Amazon Service Provider Network in your search bar. So Bonnie, I understand Payoneer have a more handheld, kind of tailored approach to the service provider network, which I know you want to introduce to our audience today as well. So I'll flip over for you.
Yeah, absolutely, Arabella. Thank you. So with Payoneer, we have a dedicated team here locally who are on hand to assist with dedicated account management. One thing that our team like to do locally is provide our account holders a really cross-border expansion consultative advice approach. So yes, absolutely, our bread and butter is the FX and the global payments, but the team are regularly having conversations with merchants about what's next for their business, if there are any pain points or roadblocks that we as a business can help them overcome. Payoneer has an incredible global infrastructure we've created. We've got, as I mentioned before, 24 offices worldwide and a really large partnership network, which ultimately means that we can help businesses overcome those cross-border obstacles. So with the 24 offices worldwide, not only does that mean that we service customers within these regions, but it also enables us to provide those local businesses wanting to enter into the markets, direct introductions and in-market specialist advice through our partners, and ultimately help them overcome those roadblocks. Think, like Arabella mentioned, your tax and your entity, your shipping, your marketing, etc. One example that sort of comes to my mind straight away is Amazon India. It's a tougher market to get up and running on without some dedicated support, which is something that Payoneer can provide you through our partnership network. Here locally, though, we also hold your hand through that onboarding phase and account setup, which will enable us to provide you an account which ultimately has all the bells and the whistles that you need to be successful with from a payments perspective, which aids to obviously your Amazon selling success journey. So rather than just jumping onto our website and registering for an account, as I mentioned, there's going to be a direct email address that you can contact, and we can work with you to ensure that we get an account set up for you that's got all those features and those functionalities that you need. So back to you, Arabella.
Perfect, thanks Bonnie. That is a great service that you can offer your account holders. Okay, great. We are on the home stretch. So now we're going to dive into our recommendations to grow your sales on Amazon.com after you've nailed all the foundations that we just went through. So recommendation number one, before I read what that recommendation is, I do want to say you can absolutely expand into the US and fulfill your US customer orders yourself. No qualms with that. The reason we recommend you select Fulfillment by Amazon as your fulfillment method is, and as I mentioned earlier, there are 98 million Prime customers in the US alone. And those 98 million Prime customers have become very familiar with free 2-day shipping. So in that instance, Fulfillment by Amazon is not only a very cost-effective fulfillment solution for you, but also a bit of a marketing tool in the US. Just to walk through how it works, so you would send your stock to a US-based fulfillment center in Amazon. You'd find the address of that fulfillment center when you create your shipment plan in Seller Central. When a US customer places an order, an Amazon fulfillment associate will pick and package your order up. We will then ship it to the customer with the Prime promise, which is 2-day free delivery, and then any customer inquiries, refunds, returns will be handled by Fulfillment by Amazon customer service. So you can kind of leave that all to them in the US to localize. So the most common question I get when I recommend to my selling partners use Fulfillment by Amazon if you can is, how much is that going to cost me? So the fee structure for Fulfillment by Amazon is two-pronged. The first thing you'll need to look at is your fulfillment fee. So the cost of transporting your product from Fulfillment by Amazon to your US customer. For the purpose of today's session, I have converted shipping weights to kilograms from pounds, so you can get a bit of a sense as to what bracket you would be falling into. Note the dollars are in USD still. So that's the cost of fulfillment. These do fluctuate from time to time based on things like a global pandemic. So I recommend reviewing the sell.amazon site, which has up-to-date tables of the current FBA fees. Your Seller Central account will also give you FBA estimates once you put in all of your product dimensions, weight, and so on. The second fee you need to consider is your storage fee. So how much it actually will be to hold your inventory in the warehouses. Differs between two periods of the year based on demand. So between Jan and September, you're looking at about 75 cents to 48 cents per cubic foot. Between October, December, those higher traffic periods, we're looking at $2.40 to $1.20 per cubic foot. Okay, so we've gone to all the effort of making sure your products comply with any government regulations, Amazon selling policies. You've listed your products on Amazon.com Seller Central. You've figured out who your international shipping partner is going to be, what your fulfillment method will be in the US. You've prepared your product for transit. But the sharp reality is, if people can't find your product on Amazon.com, they're not going to be able to buy your product on Amazon.com. All of the activities we spoke through in the foundations are critical to your medium to long-term organic discoverability. But in the short term, we highly recommend accompanying your launch onto Amazon.com with one or two advertising solutions. Before I dig into these, worth noting that Austrade do provide a grant for promotional spend for exports. So if you haven't looked into the Austrade, it's called the EMDG grant. Definitely recommend you do that because you can save a lot of money on your essential marketing with that grant. So our first recommendation is to launch a sponsored products campaign. Some of you may be very familiar with sponsored products. Essentially, these are cost per click ads that promote individual product listings by delivering ads directly to where your customers are looking. You can choose to align your product listing to a product or to a keyword. The example I've got on the right here is from Kodak. So as you can see in the search bar, a US customer has typed in Polaroid, and Kodak have aligned their product with that keyword. To do that, they put a bid on that keyword anywhere from 10 cents to $5. It will give you a recommended bracket for your category. And they've put the bid that says, this is how much I'm willing to pay for each customer to click through on my ad. So for me, if I were to click through to the Kodak Mini 3 Retro Portable Photo Printer, what a mouthful, then that is the point that Kodak would be charged, let's say that $3 they put for the bid. Great thing about sponsored ads is you set your budget for the day. So you can say, I'm only willing to spend, say, a max of $150 a day. And once you get that many clicks worth of dollars, then the campaign will cut off, which is fantastic. So definitely recommend sponsored products. There are great tutorials on Seller University and Seller Central on how to set these up, but it's super quick. The next one I would recommend is a coupons campaign. So you can accompany coupons with a sponsored products campaign or in separation. The main difference here is coupons are percentage or money off discounts that entice customers towards purchase. You can target specific customer groups on Amazon, such as Prime members, and again, you set the budget for how much you're willing to spend for the day, or the cost savings a customer is willing to save. So before I move into our next slide, many given some of the costs that it takes to expand overseas, many people or selling partners aren't putting aside money for marketing, but please do consider it, because it really does impact your short-term discoverability, which lends itself to more customer orders, ideally more customer reviews, which again helps to drive that organic discoverability in the medium to long term. So when thinking about periods of high traffic on Amazon.com, we have direct alignment between holiday events and retail events. So encourage you to cast your eyes from Valentine's Day through to Christmas. Think about which of these events or holidays your product is best positioned to take advantage of. Ensure that you have high stocks of your product in the lead up to any of these events, and make sure that you're throwing some dollars behind some advertising as well. These can really make or break a year of sales, so definitely keep this in mind. Okay, our third and final recommendation is to leverage the insights from advertising reports. Many selling partners don't realize you can access advertising reports through Seller Central, and the insights you can gain from this will really help widen the gap between how much you're spending on advertising and how much you're converting with sales. The more even it is, the less effective our campaign is. So advertising reports just help us to understand how we can continue to widen that gap. The two key reports I would recommend to you in the first instance are search term. So you use this report to identify high-performing keywords that you should be reallocating your resources to. So it will say these are the actual keywords that customers search for when your product came up. The next one is the keyword campaign. So you can see how your keywords are performing over extended periods of time to help inform your bid adjustments and to expand the keyword target list when necessary. Again, Seller University has some fantastic tutorials on how to take the insights from these reports, but please do look into them if you are going to push ahead with advertising. Okay, we have made it. I think we're doing pretty good for time as well. So just to run through the key takeaways from Amazon's side. So first and foremost, we know the retail landscape has changed. It was changing even before COVID hit, and now even more as a result. Small businesses and large businesses are more than ever being required to adopt a multi-channel strategy, and online stores such as Amazon is a fantastic way to do that. Access to those markets with not having to actually relocate a physical store there is great. When we look at the foundations we went through, again, first and foremost, make sure you have that quality detail page. The words you put within your detail page will influence where you come up in discoverability, your price and delivery times, your imagery. Make sure that's all really sound. Secondly is to optimize your FX costs with Payoneer, so you can use your savings towards advertising campaigns with what we recommend. Foundation 3 is enrolling in Amazon Brand Registry if you are a brand owner. Foundation 4, source that reliable and timely shipping partner. Again, you can leverage the service provider network or Payoneer's tailored support. Foundation 5 is engaging a third-party expert, like outside of international shipping. Again, main use cases that I'm seeing so far are storage providers and accounting, but there are 16 other service provider categories you can select from. Then into our recommendations. Again, whilst you can absolutely fulfill your customer orders yourself, we would encourage you to use Fulfillment by Amazon so you can appeal to 98 million Prime customers in the US. Recommendation 2, please set aside some money to promote your product with a sponsored products campaign or coupons. And recommendation 3, also please leverage the insights of your advertising reports. They are full of information that will help, again, to widen that gap between what you're spending and the amount of conversions you're getting. So I know that was a bit of a whirlwind, but hopefully that's come across really clear and you know what to do and how to launch successfully on Amazon.com after this. And Bonnie, I'll just pass over to you now to run through key takeaways from Payoneer's side.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Arabella. I know I personally learned a lot about Amazon and what it takes to be successful on Amazon.com off the back of that one. One of those key takeaways that Arabella just mentioned then was, ensuring that you've got enough capital there for your marketing budget, so you can make the most of those coupon campaigns to really drive success. And I think, as Arabella mentioned, and as we talked throughout the presentation, streamlining your global payments, keeping a watchful eye on that FX piece does enable you to save. So you do have that additional capital to look to inject into your business, which ultimately is obviously going to drive some more success on Amazon. But from my perspective, in terms of key takeaways, I just really want to reiterate and summarize how Payoneer helps Amazon sellers streamline your business, simplify, save on cross-border payments, and ultimately grow globally by leveraging our fantastic global network. As I mentioned, instead of jumping onto our website to sign up for an account, ensure that you send us an email address, which is, Arabella, if you just flick onto the next slide, salesau@payoneer.com. This way that a member of the local team based in Australia can organise a call with you to provide you that support, and also just talk through your business model, so we can ensure that we provide you all the bells and the whistles to drive success on Amazon through that payment piece. The other exciting thing as well is that attendees of this webinar, we are running an exclusive offer. So if you get in touch with us before the 31st of July and set up a new account, we'll provide you $100 USD after you receive your first $1,000 into your Payoneer account from Amazon. And that's it from my end. So Arabella, I'm not too sure how much time we've got left for the Q&A, but I'm going to hand back to you to run that section.
Thanks so much, Bonnie. Yeah, we've got about 4 minutes. So if any of you wanted to fire some questions at Bonnie and I using the question box on the GoToWebinar platform, then we're on standby to answer some of those. Okay, let's have a look at what we're getting here. Oh, thanks for the positive feedback, guys. Please feel free to put other feedback in there as well if you think we could have gone into anything else, but so much. Do we need separate accounts for each marketplace? No, you absolutely don't. You can use the one single sign-on to access all different regions. So now Amazon has a thing called Amazon Global Selling. So it automatically registers you for all major marketplaces that Amazon sellers sell into, and you can toggle between those in your Seller Central account. You only become active in that marketplace when you create a listing in the marketplace aligned to that Seller Central account. For example, in the US, I would need to be logged into my Amazon US Seller Central account, create active listings, then my product's live. You can ignore all the other marketplaces that you would see. Hope that answers your question, Duncan. Bonnie, maybe one for you here. If we are an NZ company, will Payoneer keep the payments in AUD so we can pay our suppliers, or pay us in NZD?
So you've got the ability to withdraw the funds back to your local NZD bank account. So if you're selling on Amazon AU, Amazon AU pay out in AUD, so you can receive those funds into your AUD balance. And then, like I said, you've got the option to withdraw to your local bank account, or you can use those funds to make supplier payments or pay freelancers, etc. Just worth noting as well, if I'm just conscious that we are running out of time, if there is any questions that myself or Arabella haven't covered, just please feel free to fire across an email to that salesau@payoneer.com address, and I'll be sure to jump on it myself and get the team to jump on too. Like I said, we're more than happy to give you a quick call to run through how we operate within the market and how that partnership works with Amazon.
Thanks, Bonnie. Yeah, likewise, please feel free to include your email address with your question here. As I said, my job is to work with Australian and New Zealand businesses such as yourselves to help you to launch into marketplaces like Amazon.com. So I'm here to help as well. And for any questions, I mean, there's so many questions, there's no way I'll be able to read through these in the minute we have left. So I'll run through these with Bonnie and make sure we reach out to you with some answers. But otherwise, again, because there's so many in here, I think that's probably the best approach from here. But thank you so much for spending the time to talk about launching into Amazon.com. It is a really exciting opportunity, and yeah, I hope to be part of your selling journey. So thank you so much, and stay in touch.
Awesome, thank you.